A look back at the biggest interviews during what can only be called a historic year in Michigan. It's all coming up right now on MiWeek.
Michigan's turnaround is being powered by things we do better than anywhere else in the world. Today's global leaders routinely turn to Michigan to work on their most difficult problems. That's because the engineering talent in this part of the world is simply the best. So many possibilities lie ahead for Michigan's future. These opportunities are here and starting to happen. The vision for the new Michigan. Share it, talk it up, drive it home. Funding is also provided by Delta.
Hi, and welcome to MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Christy McDonald. I hope that you are enjoying the holiday season. Tonight on MiWeek, we're taking a look back at some of the most pivotal conversations we had during 2013. It was a year of unprecedented change in the city of Detroit, from financial instability to the appointment of an emergency manager to bankruptcy to electing a new mayor. What happened in Detroit impacts all of us in Michigan. Plus, another big topic of conversation this year centered on education reform, from student standards to districts in financial crisis. But tonight we start with a conversation that myself and our MiWeek contributors, Nolan Finley and Stephen Henderson, had with Governor Rick Snyder the day he announced an emergency manager would take over Detroit. Can you tell us specifically what was it in the review team's findings that triggered the emergency financial finding for you for the city of Detroit as opposed to a consent agreement?
Well, again, first of all, if you go back to last April, we did a consent agreement and it hasn't been successful. And then if you look at the report, I wouldn't say there were one thing, but I would say if you look at the two big groupings, the one group about the short-term issues and then the long-term liability question. We need an across-the-board answer here, where we solve the short-term issue, the long-term issue, and then we have a system to structurally balance budgets for the long term. The other piece is not just about dollars, it's about better services to citizens. That's critically important. Let's get Detroit growing again.
Governor, you mentioned the consent agreement didn't work. Why didn't it work?
That's a fair question to ask, Nolan. I don't think people brought the urgency that they needed to work on the items in many respects. And I don't want to get into names or people, but if you look at it, that was done in April. And I looked at an analysis of when things were done. It's actually in the review team report. A number of those 21 different items in the appendix didn't even get started really until September. And some of that was just people waited. Other cases was because of litigation. But for a variety of reasons, it was literally months before a number of items really got any serious consideration. And we can't have that. This is a crisis.
Do you feel like those partnerships, though, still are going to be important going forward for the manager? I mean, can the emergency manager do his or her job without the support of council or the mayor who failed on the consent agreement?
Yeah, the clear preference is to have people working together, Stephen, and that's what I really hope. I mean, that's something still to be seen, but if you think about it, I view this as all hands on deck. When you have a crisis like this, the best answer is you don't say, you're doing it, you're not doing it, you can be involved, you can't be involved. I believe it should be a call for everyone to come together. And that's why I would hope people look at the emergency manager as another resource, another set of, a talent set and a set of tools coming to the table to allow things to be done better and faster than they've been done in the past.
You're going to have a perception, though, that this is a state takeover, that people are coming in and going to run the city of Detroit. You're going to need people to buy into the idea that this is about people and about fixing something that is terribly broken. What kind of, early wins would you want to deliver for the city of Detroit, for the people, so they say, you know what, maybe this is the right step?
Yeah, and that's something that we're already doing some analysis on, and a lot of that work's been done, Christy. I don't want to get into specifics because, I'm not here to do what would be an emergency manager's job. But I think one of the important things is to say, let's get some early successes. Some of the simple things that everyone knows are broken, let's just fix some of those things.
And what would some of those things be?
Again, if you look at it, in many respects, you can say, how can we move faster on the lighting question? How can we do some public safety items? How can we look at some of the issues that have been coming up recently about property taxes, how we're assessing property and how people are paying it? And the blight question's a big one.
Governor, you didn't tell us who the emergency manager is going to be today. Do you have a person who has agreed to do this job? And what skill sets were you looking for when you went out scouting for an emergency manager?
Well, I believe we're in good shape with respect to having a manager. I wouldn't want to say I have one because, again, there's an appeals period here that I need to be thoughtful about, allowing people to appeal, a 10-day period, and then make another determination after that.
But
so
you've
that
got
would be
somebody,
premature.
right? I mean, you've got somebody.
We've got it well identified in terms of how we would proceed. And in terms of person, it's really someone that can bring a multitude of skill sets. One, they need to be a good people person, someone that can work with people. As you said, Stephen, how do they have someone that can work with a mayor or city council and try to bring them in and say it's teamwork? You want somebody that's financially skilled, because there are a lot of serious financial questions, and we need a decision maker, someone that's not going to dwell on things but will look at the facts and make a decision.
You know, there are a lot of people who say that the state has not shown in the past that it can turn around cities or school districts, and that this is not a model we should be importing to Detroit. What successes would you point to in terms of other emergency managers that you've appointed that should give people in the city some hope?
Well, I think we're making good progress in a number of cities. If you look at Pontiac, I think a lot of good things are going on there, and that's a case where the mayor and city council, people are working together.
Right.
Flint is not quite as far along, but they're making progress. Ecorse is fairly along in the process, as is Benton Harbor. So there's a number of places where this model is working. Given the new tool sets, we've been able to go faster and better, and one of my goals is to actually exit out of those communities, transition out, and get those communities back in charge.
Let me talk about the time frame. 18 months is what's been given. Is it possible to turn around the financial situation in Detroit in 18 months?
What I would say is it can really be stabilized and get a lot of major answers in place. The comeback of Detroit's going to take longer than 18 months. Everyone knows that. But to say basic stability is in place, a lot of the long-term reliability questions are addressed, there's a structural system that can work, and then part of it is making sure there's a framework for continuing kind of, not involvement per se, but a structure of success that goes on longer term. I'll give you one illustration. How does the city come up with their revenue estimates? That's been a classic problem, and that's one of the reasons we have this issue. Well, at the state, we've had a revenue estimating conference model that's worked really well. So that's something that should be part of a transition plan, is to say we should have a model like that for the city, because that's one of the ways to keep the city from falling back in this situation.
Emergency Manager Kevyn was appointed a few weeks later, and he had the tough job of wrangling the city's finances as well as essentially running the day-to-day function of the city. And he had to wade into the politics of it all. In June, the former president of the Detroit City Council, Charles Pugh, suddenly left town after allegations of an improper relationship with a teen he mentored, or had to make the decision to strip Pugh of his pay and his duties. This past week, you have made a pretty big decision, and that decision was to strip City Council President Charles Pugh of his title and of his salary. Can you explain why you made that decision?
The only reason I made that decision is, I'm in the midst of some pretty serious discussions with rank and file employees about their terms and conditions and compensation. And from my years in federal government, the standard schedule of discipline, both in federal government and the military, is the higher up you go, the more responsible you're supposed to be. And so Mr. Pugh is a leader. He's president of the council. His conduct should be exemplary as an example for other employees. And going missing in action at a critical time in the city's development on council, I felt was inappropriate. So what I said was, you need to come back to council. If there's a reason you need to take time off, then explain that reason. I'm not a public relations specialist. But more important than that, Mr. Pugh had sent me a memo asking me to approve medical leave. There's nothing in either the charter or under my statute for me to approve medical leave, and I didn't want to get drawn in to a situation where someone would say the emergency manager approved whatever was going on. So I said, look, I'm not in a position and don't have the authority to approve it. You need to come back and work your job. If you can't do that, then you shouldn't be in a leadership position on the council. So I removed compensation. I kept benefits in place for whatever reason. If someone needs assistance or help, I think that's the humane thing to do. And I actually said that's going to take effect this Sunday. So although it said you had to come back by 5, the compensation decision went for the balance of the pay period to give a little extra time for someone to reconsider what they should do as a leader, when I'm asking for some pretty severe concessions from rank and file employees.
Was it disappointing that you hadn't heard from him?
No, it's not particularly disappointing. I'm nobody's priest, and I'm certainly nobody's judge. I'm just trying to do my job as I think is appropriate, particularly for people in leadership positions in a city where leaders have all too often disappointed us.
So Charles apparently is hiding or trying to avoid these very serious allegations raised by a mother who claims he had an inappropriate relationship with her son. Do you know where he is? And as a elected official, as the president of the council, wouldn't you expect him to stand up and offer some explanation to these charges?
You know, Nolan, I'm gonna stay away from that. As I said before, I'm not his judge, and my decision was separate from the allegations that have been made. And they are serious allegations. We've seen them before in other contexts, in Pennsylvania, so on and so forth. And I just didn't want to get caught dealing with the responsiveness of a leader to be on the job, leading the council. Whatever flows from that, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. I am a lawyer, no longer attorney because I don't have a bar license in Michigan, but I am a lawyer. And everyone who is subject to an allegation has a right to defend themselves as they seem appropriate. I've just read the published reports in response to your question about where he is about Mr. Pugh in the Northwest somewhere, but I hope he's okay, and I hope that at some point he'll have an opportunity to respond to these allegations, but that's really his business, that's not mine.
Well, you've got to be aware, though, of the optics here, that as the appointed emergency manager, you're stripping the second highest ranking elected official in the city of his title. Obviously, people are sort of questioning what is your authority to do that. Certainly, you could dismiss the council, right? As emergency manager, you could disband or not pay any council members. But what gives you the authority to say he's no longer president, which is defined in our charter as the highest vote getter?
Well, Section 9 of 436, my statute, says that the council shall stand down, council and mayor shall stand down unless specifically delegated. And if you recall, I delegated power back to the mayor and the council at some criticism.
Right.
And I did that at the time because in the statute there's certain provisions, one of which is to take a vote to fire me at the end of my term. And I thought it would be highly cynical and somewhat unfair to say, well, they have a role, but I'm not going to pay them, and I'm going to denude them of any authority, as some of my friends in Washington advised me to do, you know, the political animals, and said, gut them and leave them on the side. And I said, no, I'm going to try to work with this situation. For the first month, they were taking votes. One of the most difficult ones was the retention of my old firm, Jones Day. And I sat on the sidelines and let that happen. So I really tried to do this right. And I think the statute gives me authority. What it does not give me authority to do is to fire anybody. He is an elected official. It has a provision whereby you can appeal to the governor, and I have not done that. Okay, because I think that I'm trying to divorce what I'm trying to do from an administrative and operational standpoint from whatever's going on with the allegations that are in the
But
paper.
can you let go of his staff? I mean, can you lay them off?
Absolutely.
And will you take that step if he doesn't show up soon?
Well, we've already taken some steps with regard to both Mr. Pugh's staff and Mr. McKenyatta's staff. I mean, we're trying to save money. As you note in the budget, there was a little kerfuffle between the mayor and the council regarding council staff and budgets and 33% cuts. And I don't want to get involved in kerfuffle. I'm just looking at money. And if someone's not working, if someone hasn't taken that into consideration, their own staff that they hired, I can't. I'm in a crisis.
And while Detroit's financial emergency played out and Kevyn filed for bankruptcy, there was a mayoral race going on. Mike Duggan, former Detroit Medical Center CEO, was on the ballot, then off the ballot because of residency issues, and then on again after winning a stunning write-in campaign in the primary. He beat Benny Napoleon in the general election, but is now still trying to figure out what kind of role he will play as mayor in a city that's being run by an emergency manager.
What would you say is the most important thing for you to have some say over come January?
Well, I don't think there's any question the driving issue in the city is public safety. And we have got to go after the police response time. But those are things that we're still working through. And whether I will be responsible for public safety or not is something that has not been resolved. So, you know, we're going through it, you know, issue by issue. And hopefully in the next 2 weeks we'll have a formal agreement that would get reduced to an order that the emergency manager would enter.
So when you think about what a COO would do, what's it look like to you, and what would the plus be?
Well, I'm not sure what the plus is, but you know, I spent 14 years as a deputy county executive. I was a COO, so I know exactly what a COO is. But you know, I want the ability to go in and deal with the fact that these street light repairs are too darn slow. I want to be able to straighten out. Right now, we got about 7 different cooks in the blight kitchen. We need to have a single blight strategy, and I had the opportunity to sit down with Dan Gilbert in the last week. what he's doing on the Blight Authority is just phenomenal. If we can corral all the different people doing things and go to a single Department of Neighborhoods, as I outlined in the campaign, I think we can make an impact on the quality of life of the neighborhoods in the first year. So I want to have enough authority to be able to do those things, respecting that I'm going to have to operate within Mr. Orr's budget. I have to operate in a way that does not disrupt what's going on in his litigation, bankruptcy, and to the extent he's set up frameworks and collective bargaining agreements, or to the extent he wants to sign off on major appointments, those things are all fine. And so something along those lines could conceivably work.
So you mentioned collective bargaining agreements. Should you be the one negotiating with the union, since you're the one who's going to have to live with the contracts long term?
You know, there's two ways to look at it. One is that the emergency manager is putting forward a plan of adjustment to the bankruptcy court, which has to be accepted by the judge, or we don't get out of bankruptcy. And so he certainly has an intense interest in making sure that those agreements fit within his parameters. I have an intense agreement to make sure that we can afford them in the long run. So our interests are probably aligned. But if I were the emergency manager, I would want to sign off on these agreements because I've got an obligation to live up to my representations to the court. So those kinds of conversations are the kinds of discussions we're having. They're all professional, they're all rational, but it's very complicated and it's very detailed. We're trying to work through it.
Are you talking principally with Kevyn, or are you also talking with Governor Snyder, who I know wants to have a pretty active role in shaping this partnership?
You know, I'm talking to both, but it's very clear that the emergency manager is in charge, and just as the statute suggests, he really is in charge, and ultimately, I believe the emergency manager is going to decide
So
what
you
this looks
don't
like.
get a sense that Lansing's pulling the strings and calling the shots here?
You know, it's hard for me to tell what goes on when I'm not in the room, but my conversations with the governor have been very constructive, and I see lots of ways for the city and state to partner, and I feel very good about that.
What about talent? We hired a new CFO last week. It seemed like somebody who we should be pleased to see come to Detroit, but it also seemed pretty clear that that was Kevyn's pick.
I would not, again, I don't think so. I think the CFO worked out ideally, which is I sat in on the main interview.
Okay.
I was totally impressed. I spent 2 hours with him. And after an hour, I said to him, I don't want you to think of this in terms of 6 months or 8 months for an emergency manager. I'd like you to think in terms of being the CFO for the next 4 years. Mr. Hill is just phenomenal. He headed up the oversight board when Washington, D.C. Was under an emergency manager. He talked to me about how he got citizens positively engaged, which is something I've seen lacking here in our particular situation. But I've dealt with a lot of CFOs both in the private sector and the public sector, and Mr. Hill was far better than what I would have expected us to be able to attract as a public sector CFO. So we made the offer together. My understanding is Mr. Hill insisted on hearing from me before he made a decision, and so the reason that we announced it jointly was Mr. Orr has indicated he wants him here for his tenure. I've indicated to Mr. Hill I want him here for my tenure, and this truly was an example of what working together could produce.
What about talent and the rest of the administration? I mean, you've got a lot of jobs to fill. It's unclear as of yet, I guess, how many of them that you'll get to fill by January. How's that all going?
You know, we've got a transition office open in Cadillac Towers. There's a dozen people working, 60 and 80-hour weeks assessing that talent and the like. And so we'll know the details, but obviously I expect to be the person primarily recruiting the cabinet. We have got to shift from this consultant-based government that we have today to getting the permanent people in place who are going to start to run the departments.
So if you were given a larger role, do you believe you could get rid of some of those consultants who are quite expensive for the city? Do you think you can replace them with folks who might serve you long term?
I think we need to start transitioning down so that every month that goes by on the operational side, I'm not talking about the ones supporting the bankruptcy litigation, but the consultants supporting the day-to-day operations, I'd like to see us to start to phase down that money and put your money into the permanent people who will be running the departments. And yes, I do think I can phase it down.
And we couldn't end up the year without talking about education and that vague catchphrase, education reform. From testing student achievement to testing teacher readiness and making sure school districts don't go broke, it has not been an easy year, but one of many changes, as we found out talking with State School Superintendent Mike Flanagan.
But Mike, before you talk about it, looking at individual cases, and I agree with that. There should be some discretion, parents and administrators and teachers and what have you. But we don't yet have an effective measuring system for student performance in place. And that's another issue the legislature's taking up. What should that look like?
We need to get rid of MEEP. I mean, it's outdated.
So what do you replace MEEP with?
Well, you know, I'm going to carefully say this because we think the only thing in the pipeline is something we've been working on for 3 years called Smarter Balance. But we just did a report
Sounds
to
like
the
a butter.
legislature. Sounds like a what?
A butter.
Butter, yeah. We probably could rename. We are going to rename it, by the way. Whatever we get, whether it's Smarter Balance, ACT, because as long as they have something aligned to the Common Core, now that we're through that battle, we need a test that aligns to the Common Core. We want to move it from the fall to the spring, so you actually can measure growth during the year. It will be a growth measure, but I want to be careful again. Smarter Balance is the only one we know that's going to be ready. If others are ready, we're going to have to go for bid anyway, and we'll take whatever the...
Will it move us away from a test that measures sort of rote learning, memorization,
Yes.
and toward sort of aptitude and...
Even more, yeah, aptitude, but the complexity of the sophistication of these tests now and what you can do, it's like everything else that's changed in the last 10 years. We can get right down to where a kid is, and then you can eventually tie it into a fair measure for teachers. I'm for teachers being evaluated, but not with the current system. The only way they can be evaluated fairly is, have you gotten growth over time with your kids, you know, on average.
And one of the advantages of that Smarter Balance test and those other tests is that they are nationally normed, so that you're not just looking at how a kid does on the test, but how they do in comparison to other kids around the country.
That's right, Stephen. I mean, this will be the first time, because when kids are doing well in the MEEP, you don't know what that means in terms of, I mean, look at some of the international stuff that's come in. I'm always a little embarrassed, I guess, you know, because I'm thinking, crap, I've been doing this and we're still in this situation where internationally we look very weak. I would say this, and it may sound a little defensive, we do educate all our kids. We do test all our kids. I've been to Finland and to study their system. It's half the size of Michigan. There's really no poverty to speak of. They're very good at getting high quality teachers. It's such a prestigious profession there that they just get the top of their class. We recently, you may have seen, this is my call, and I changed the cut scores for getting certified as a teacher. It's much tougher.
And I do, hang on, I do want to throw out some of the numbers on that, so we all know what we're talking about. The recent state certification exams, only 45% passed the math portion, 31% passed the writing, and the overall pass percentage was 26%. So what does this say then about the college programs and about the preparation for these teachers?
They're weak.
Because the numbers are hurtful.
Right. First of all, we have 32 of them, so I probably should back up a little bit. They're not all weak. But they should be accountable like everyone else in the system right now. They're the only folks that aren't. So we've redone our ratings. I last year took action to close down part of Lake Superior State's program and part of Olivet's program. And I'm not afraid to do this with others if they don't get their act together. Because what they do then is we have 100,000 teachers. We're picking up about 4,000 or 5,000 new ones a year. You put them in a classroom and they're not prepared, and then they're under a very high accountability system where you can be fired if you're not getting student achievement growth. They have to be connected. So back to the testing for a minute. We can even do this year where we can connect the dots between, let's say, all the science teachers that were prepared by Central Michigan. And you can loop it back to, are they getting student achievement growth? And then you'll be able to say, well, what is it if Central turns out to be the best for science education? It's not a punishment model. It's, well, Eastern, you better be talking to Central. Michigan State, you better be figuring out what they're doing.
But we're still training way more teachers than we need, right? I mean, should we not be closing down some of these schools and consolidating the best programs?
Well, if I was a higher ed commissioner and we had a different constitution, that's what would happen. But they're independent and they're allowed to have a program. But here's the deal. The change in cut scores is automatically going to move us probably from producing 8,000 a year to, let's say, 5 or 6. So we'll reduce it. I do want to clarify one thing, though. In fairness to this is a very small sample, this first test. So I wouldn't panic about that. And in my view, a little bit of this is still on the teacher ed institution. We told them 6 years ago we were going to do this. And then suddenly, to some of them, it's like a surprise that we've changed the cut scores. You know, a lot of folks didn't have any problem with us changing the cut scores for kids, where it was harder to do well. But my gosh, let's not change them with where higher ed's going to be rated.
I want to ask you about the EAA, which is operating in Detroit with 15 schools now. There's a lot of pressure to expand that to other districts, more schools. Is that a good idea?
Well, you know, we have the role in the department to decide what goes into the state reform district. And at least for now, we're still vetting schools, but my plan is in the next week or two, we will name some schools that will go
Name
into,
some other schools that'll go in?
but they'll go into the state reform district.
Okay.
And the reason I'm kind of trying to clarify that language is I'm somewhat agnostic about the EAA. The thing was the Granholm law, which puts schools into the reform district,
Right.
is now coupled with kind of the Snyder mechanism for the EAA implementing or operating them. And, you know, the jury is out a bit, but I've been there and I'm hopeful. I mean, I've seen their...
Do you feel like that the things you're seeing in those EAA schools represents improvement?
I do. You know, I think there's a lot of controversy.
It's early, though. I mean,
it's
you got to
early.
give them some time.
But here's the way I'm looking at it. If we, let's say, we're probably going to name fewer than 10. And they'll be around the state. They're not just...
Not just in Detroit.
Right. And by the way, if they're in Detroit, that's up to the emergency manager whether or not they actually go.
But they're all failing schools, right?
That's my point. I mean, if we're only going to do this first year especially, if there's absolutely no improvement.
It has been quite a year, and I suspect 2014 will keep us talking as well. That is going to do it for My Week. Thanks so much for joining us and showing support for our show throughout the year. Find us at myweek.org anytime. And I'd like to thank the crew here at Detroit Public TV for all they do to make My Week a success every single week. Have a happy new year. Here's to a great 2014. I'm Christy McDonald. We'll see you next time.
Business Leaders for Michigan is dedicated to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and economic growth. Learn more at businessleadersformichigan.com. Funding is also provided by Delta.